Parent Podcast.
Hello.
Uh,
Sorry.
we have Olivia Hockey with us. She's the mom of two boys. Her eldest is Jude, who has ASD. He's nonverbal, but he is progressing very well. I talked to her a little bit before the show. I'm excited for you to hear their story. She's a sports therapist, has been working in the health and fitness industry for 20 years. And welcome to the show, Olivia.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here. This is super important, and there's tons of listeners that want to know other people's stories because there's just not enough data out there. And so sharing your experience is super important. So can you tell us a little bit about your family makeup, what it looks like, and your child with ASD?
Yeah, so it's me, my husband, and my two boys. My eldest son, Jude, is 8 and he has ASD. And I have a younger boy who is 5. His name is Hudson. And Jude was born full term, healthy, £8.7, born in the water.
Nice.
Everything was perfect, lovely.
When did you notice something was going different than you planned?
So Jude was progressing completely normally. He sat early, walked early, was babbling, saying words at 6 months old, and was generally coming on leaps and bounds and doing really well. And at about age 1, maybe a little bit earlier than that, I stopped breastfeeding him and I put him just purely onto like cow's milk and formula. And he just started to pick up things like tonsillitis. And I thought, oh, okay, well, it's just one of those things. So he had tonsillitis and he was given antibiotics. And then the next month he had tonsillitis again. So they gave him more antibiotics. And then the month after that, the same thing. So for 3 months running, he had antibiotics. And then about 6 weeks later, I thought, oh, his immune system's really quite low. Like if he gets meningitis or something like that, or mumps or rubella or anything like that, he's going to be really, really sick. And it really worried me. And he was late for his MMR, so I took him for his MMR, which he had, and he was a bit groggy for like a few weeks, but after, I'd say around the 10 to 14 day mark, he came up in this nasty rash. And I took him to the doctors and he had a temperature and all his glands were swollen. And they said to me, yeah, I think he's having a reaction to the rubella part of the MMR. And there were 4 doctors in the room at this point. So now I'm worried because I'm like, oh, why are all these doctors in here? Why are they all looking at this rash? Like they must be thinking that something's up. This isn't like a routine rash for 4 doctors to come into the room.
Right.
And slowly, and I'm not saying it was just one thing. It could have been a mixture of so many different things, but the combination of the antibiotics wiping out his gut microbiome, his body being in an inflammatory state, and then having 3 live viruses didn't benefit him in any way, shape or form. And he's just slowly started to sort of not respond to his name, to lose eye contacts. And he just kind of went off into a world of his own. And he, like before age 2, he had no sensory issues. And then at around age 2, he started flapping quite a lot. And it was a bit of a shock because I just thought, like, what's going on? And I'd have the health visitor around and I'd say, oh, I'm a bit concerned. I've seen a change in Jude. And she'd say, oh, he's all right. He's just like a tiny bit behind with speech because he was still kind of talking at this point. But his immune system was just so bad. He just kept getting ill, like urine infections and strep throat and sickness bugs and all that kind of stuff. And so by age 3, he'd lost, I'd say, 90% of his words. Yeah.
And
So
how are you feeling through this? I mean, this is not what you were planning.
I mean, I think initially I was in denial. I just thought, this can't be happening. Like, I was not expecting this. I don't really know what I'm dealing with. And I didn't really think, oh, this could be autism. At first, I thought this must be a speech delay. Like, especially before he started like flapping and stuff, I just thought, no, he hasn't got any sensory needs. Like, he's fine. He's just, maybe he's just more physical. He was so physical. He was like climbing everything. So I just thought, oh, maybe he's just a really physical kid and he's just not really that bothered about speaking. But yeah, when he started nursery at age 3, they kind of sat me down and they were like, right, we're referring him to the paediatrician. And honestly, that was probably one of the worst days of my life, because it was one of those times when you think, I can't run from this anymore. I can't deny that there's something going on and I have to face this now. And so from age 3, he was referred to the paediatrician and for speech therapy, which I was really glad to be referred for. I was glad I was getting the help, but also terrified because I didn't know anything about autism. Yeah. Like, everything I'd heard was so negative. There were no like positive stories or like happy ever after stories. It was all like sad and like, oh, we feel sorry for you, stuff kind of stuff. And I thought, oh, I don't want that to be me. I don't want this fight. I don't want this life. I just want everything to be lovely. And it was really tough. And he was diagnosed at 3 years, 8 months old. And at the time he was diagnosed, Hudson was 6 months old. So I was going through all this, pregnant basically as well. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that part of the journey, and my emotional intelligence wasn't where it is today. Like, I just was not prepared. I did not have what was necessary to handle things. And I got the chills just thinking about walking through your part of that story. It's just so intense. Is there a worst moment on the journey that stands out, just to give the listeners sort of an idea of what you deal with?
I think Jude's always been a really happy and loving child. So even though it's been hard, he's always been like a really awesome little boy. Like, and there have been some behaviours and some, tantrums when we're out. But I think probably the hardest thing that I dealt with was the schooling. I think he started mainstream school when he was 5. And by this time I had his EHCP. I don't know what it's like in America, but it's like his statement of needs. So it was his kind of paperwork that says, okay, this is what this child needs. And the government fund it. So you can turn up at a school and say, here's my child's EHCP, and the school will get funding for that child to support them. I'd looked at about 30 schools. And I'd had loads of head teachers just like, no, he can't come here, and just having that, like finding the resilience to deal with that. We don't want your child, your son's too much, we don't want him here. That was really like, I felt like totally beaten up by the system. Then I found this one school and they were like, the headmistress said, oh, I've got a child with special needs, he's severely dyslexic, but he's done really well in this school. We can support him. Like, they'd read all his paperwork, so they knew what they were getting. Like, there were no surprises. And the EHCP always reads kind of as bad as it can, because you have to put everything that's like worst case scenario, worst day ever for that child, so you know that they can be supported. And so he started the school, and immediately they were like, oh, we can't give him a regular one-to-one. He's got to work with loads of different people. Anyway, they said he could go in the mornings, and he went in every morning. And after 3 weeks, he started queuing up in the dinner queue to go for lunch with the other children. And I was like, oh, this is great. He's ready for lunch. Like, he's ready to stay for lunch with the other kids. Brilliant. And I said to the headmistress, oh, can he stay now? And she said, no, we've got no one to support him. He can't stay for the rest of the day. He can only do mornings. And I was like, oh, okay. So basically you've taken all this extra funding from the government to support my child, but you're not actually going to support him and now I have to deal with this. And to cut a long story short, I managed to get him a assessment at probably the best specialist school within about 50 miles of us. It's a National Autistic Society school. It's a private school. It's quite small, but they have like full-time occupational therapy, full-time speech therapy. It's an excellent school. They hardly ever give out assessments. He got an assessment and then he got offered a place. And I was like, oh my God, this is it. He's going to go to the best school ever. Everything's fine. And I said to the school, will you support me to help me get Jude into this school? And they were like, no, you're on your own. Like, we're not going to give you the paperwork. We're not going to support you. Basically, we won't support you at all. You're on your own. And I think that was probably my lowest point, because I thought, we've been through all the diagnosis. We've been through all the stress of getting all the funding, the EHCP. We've done all that. We've tried to find the perfect mainstream school. You've completely let us down. And now you're taking away his shot at going to the best school. So you're really not on Team Jude. You know, like, you don't really care about my son. All you care about is keeping the council happy, because our local council did not want to pay for his placement because it's so expensive. And they basically said, we'll see you in court. So I had to send in, I basically stated my case as if I was going to court. I sent them all my paperwork. I had to pay for a specialist teacher to come and assess Jude, to write reports for him. I had to pay for a private speech therapist to come and work with him and write reports to say why he should go to this school, because he's worth the funding. You know, it was horrendous. But going through that really, really tough, crappy time kind of made us somehow like take our power back and create this like Team Jude, this team of really supportive people who were like, yes, we've got you. Like, we're on your side. We believe in you. We believe in Jude. Like, he can do this. He deserves to be at that school. He's awesome. Like, he's going to do really well there. And after months of fighting, they said, yeah, he can go there. The council said, yeah. And he got his placement. And yeah, and he's been doing so well. And it's like, it's been such a game changer. Like, I didn't know if it could ever happen. And I'm just like, it's probably one of the best things that has ever happened to us as a family. Like, him going to school, it literally in that moment, I was just like, oh, like,
I got the chills again. So
yeah,
I got the chills on both ends of the spectrum. No pun intended.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thanks.
I'm happy for you and your son and your family.
Thank you.
That's so cool. And it's so hard. And I often say I can't, but we can, because it's really like we have to do this together. We have to get our micro support groups.
Yes.
Our micro networks of support. And then the show's created to make a bigger, a network, and hopefully they all play a positive part, because on my own with my kids and a feeling of hopelessness, life doesn't seem worth living, or it doesn't seem possible. So and I'm happy for you. That's a great
thank you.
A great part of the story. So tell me, how does your husband handle the diagnosis, that things are going to be different than he planned? How do you two do in working together? I mean,
I think initially he just kind of like, it was a really difficult time, because Jude was diagnosed with autism, and 6 weeks later, his dad was diagnosed with terminal cancer.
Wow.
So it was like, boom. So he actually, it was just a shock. I think we were just in shock for quite a long time, and we didn't really process. But he really started getting into nutrition. I think it was like there's so much going on in our life that we cannot control. Everything feels out of control. You know, like our life's changed forever. Boom, you've got an autism diagnosis. And, you know, his dad had terminal cancer. He's passed away now. And I think he just went like, what can I do for my family? So he worked really hard so that we had a bit of money to pay for speech therapy and stuff like that. Because we're not an affluent family. This is, you know, it's like putting money away to pay for stuff.
Yeah.
And then he just went right into the nutrition. He was like, right, what can I control? Okay, well, I can control what I put in my body and what my kids can put in their body. And can this help my child? So that's kind of where he went with that. And I think as a couple, we kind of handled it separately. And probably like a lot of couples, you kind of think, oh, like, I feel really shit today, but I don't want to tell you that I'm feeling really shit because I don't want to make you feel really shit. Yeah. So I'll just swallow that. And you know, it went on for quite a long time with both of us. And I would honestly say it's probably only since Jude has been in the school that he's at now and in an environment where he's thriving that we've actually been able to sort of process everything properly and talk together, because I think we've gone through the cycle of grief quite a lot of times, and now we're both like, okay, we can kind of smile and be happy again, you know. I've had therapy, which really helped. And I just think we communicate a lot better now, but it was definitely really hard in the beginning.
Yeah. So I don't know if it'll sound weird, but the two groups that are my favorite people on the planet are parents raising special needs kids and recovering addicts.
Yeah.
Because both of them usually have hit a pretty hard bottom, and it was turn around and go the other way, or carry on with addiction, or start an addiction and die, right? And so the people that try to rise from the ashes, so to speak, are so inspiring to me. And in a lot of ways, I feel like, we're survivors.
Yeah, 100%.
And I'm so grateful for where I am, and for the listeners out there that are in the early part of their journey. My heart is full for them, you know. But it's a heck of a journey, and I commend you, because it sounds like you love your child, and you're taking it head on, and you're doing whatever's necessary to make it happen. So, what's something that, like, at this, how old is Jude now?
He's 8.
He's 8. So what's something you're excited about at this stage? Is he working on anything that's exciting? What's something that you're looking forward to today and moving forward?
He uses a communication app called Proloquo, which is on the iPad, and it basically helps him to communicate and to build sentences. So now he can say to me, like, I want to go in the garden, or I want to go to Nanny's house, or I want an ice cream. So he started off with the PECS, the Picture Exchange Communication System. And now he's been moved on to this because his language has, like, his understanding of language has kind of exploded in the last 6 months. So he's gone on to this so we can add more. It's just easier to add more. And he can build his sentences quicker. And he's trying to say more words. Like, he's really looking at our eyes and looking at our mouth and, like, oh, you know.
That's cool.
So yeah, he really struggles. Like, he wants to talk, but he cannot make his mouth do it. Like, something's going on at the moment. But he's really trying, and, like, eye contact's not an issue anymore. And it's just, like, so many little things lately that he wasn't doing, he's doing now. And, like, we went to the park the other day and he was on a swing, and, you know, like, you swing your legs out and then you bring them back to swing.
Yeah.
Well, he'd never been able to do that before, and he did it on Saturday at the park. And I was like, he's like Christopher Robin.
Uh,
And I just cried. So I just get so much joy from all the little things.
yes.
I just feel really grateful.
Yes. I think for me, acceptance has been the key, and to not compare, and
Yeah.
just, be grateful for my journey, be grateful for my children.
Mm.
Then those moments are so special.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to get him to have a girlfriend or be a dad someday or something, then I'm miserable because I'm not sure if that's going to happen. But being present, for me, meditation's helped a lot because I was
Yeah.
just wound up. So how about for you? What do you do to keep yourself in wellness,
Well, I still have,
mental or physical or whatever?
yeah, I still have talking therapy. So I still have therapy, and not all the time anymore because I did have it sort of quite intensely, but now I just have it when I feel I need it. But that's really good to still have that there. And I go to the gym, and I work in sports massage, so I'm around a lot of kind of quite chill people quite a lot, which does actually really help because I'm around a lot of kind of happy people with good energy, and I tend to try and keep my circle like that. I have quite strict boundaries on what I consume, and like as in like what I watch, who I spend my time with, what I eat, that kind of stuff. So
Sure.
everything that's in my life, I try and make it positive and right for me and right for the kids. And if people aren't, if people haven't got the right kind of energy, or if I feel like people are judgy towards my kids, then it's just like you're not welcome. And I would have felt bad about that before, but now it's like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, bye.
Yeah.
You know.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. I think, I don't know when it happened for me, but looking at those individual things, what you listen to, what you watch, when I wasn't looking at those things, it was just like, however I can survive through the day, whatever I can watch to check out to survive through the day. And then now that I try to be conscious of little things here and there, and then I go back and watch something that's kind of rowdy, and I'm like, God, I'm not even comfortable watching certain things, or it makes my, and I'm like, where did that come from? I'm this tattooed guy from Detroit. Like I'm not supposed to be sensitive about PG-13 movies, but I am. So I think that's great. And I think it's been important for me to take those little baby steps in lots of areas. It makes me calmer, just a better person. So that's great to hear.
Yeah. I think
So tell me
coming
a
out,
little bit about, so your background's in nutrition. Do you take that, that interest of yours and look at how nutrition affects your son, or do you
yeah,
not make that cross, or what?
yeah, hugely. And initially, it was something that obviously I know about nutrition from just my background, and I've got an idea of what you should eat to stay healthy and that kind of stuff. And when Jude was diagnosed, we read a lot of about nutrition, and as I said, like my husband really did a lot of research, and there were so many parents like, oh, it makes a difference. There is something that you can do. And I spoke to the pediatrician about it when Jude was about 4, and she basically said, it doesn't really make much difference. There's no evidence. Okay, so I'm thinking, well, he's a really fussy eater. This is going to be a right pain to try and change his diet. Like, what a fight. Maybe that's not a fight we need to have right now. We've got so much going on. Like, let's just carry on with let him eat what he wants to eat. Anyway, about 6 months later, in the middle of the night, I was on Google and I was reading about something called the Nemetschek Protocol for Autism and Developmental Disorders. And it was basically, it's very natural, and there were no drugs involved or anything like that, or anything weird really. It was just adding like extra virgin olive oil, omega-3 fish oil, inulin, which is a natural prebiotic found in chicory roots, and getting rid of any sort of vegetable oils, which basically meant cutting out a lot of processed foods. So it was a lot of cooking from scratch. So we did that. Within a week, our non-sleeper started sleeping through the night, which was, you know, I think for any parent, especially a parent of a child with ASD who hasn't slept for 5 years, this was like, holy shit, this, like, there actually might be something in this, you know, this might have an effect. This might be the way forward. This is something we can do. So, so we carried on with that. And then when he started his new school, one of the teachers said to me, you know, this gluten and dairy free thing. And I said, yeah. She went, it is a thing. Look at it. And I was like, really? She said, yeah. So instead of just cutting out gluten and dairy, because I was still a bit like, I don't want to do all this stuff if it's not going to benefit him, we enrolled a functional nutritionist and we did a GI map. So we got a stool sample, we tested his gut. First thing that came back, dairy and gluten intolerant. It cannot have that. It's bad for his immune system.
Oh my gosh.
It's messing up his sensory processing. Cut it. Okay, so we cut that. Then we find that he still has the live strep virus in his gut, which strep virus can cause something called PANDAS, which is a neurological condition. So he's still got this live in his body. So his body's still trying to fight this off. And I think he had that about 2 years previously. So this has been in his body a long time.
Wow.
So we detoxed that out of his gut, and we redid the GI test to make sure that the strep virus was out of his gut. We then did a heavy metals test. Heavy metals came back. He had 10 times the amount of lead that he should have in his body.
Wow.
So then we detoxed that out. And we carry on giving him supplements specifically for him. So this isn't just, we don't just go and think, oh, magnesium's good or vitamin D's good. You know, this is specific stuff for him. And we monitor it so we know if it's working or not. And yeah, we're going to do another test in about 2 weeks, which is a really thorough blood test that tests for Lyme's and co-infections. Lyme's disease, apparently about 90% of children with autism have Lyme's disease.
Oh, wow.
I don't know if he has it or not. I don't know if this is going to be relevant for him, but we're kind of 90% of the way through the testing. So we thought, well, we might as well do this really comprehensive test and just find out. This is like this is as far as we can go with this current nutritionist. So that's what we're going to do next.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
For the parents in Naked Parent Nation, who do you look for when you want to get your kid tested? What's that type of person or doctor or office called?
I don't know what it's like in America, but a functional nutritionist over here can do it for you. I mean, there must be functional nutritionists over there. It's basically people that use like natural remedies to help prevent and cure and make better illnesses. So this isn't like saying that it's going to cure autism, but it's definitely going to help his body function as best as it possibly can.
Yes.
To give him the best results. And we've seen it, and even the teachers have mentioned it to me at school. They're like, wow.
That's awesome.
He's doing amazing. There is a guy actually that we want to work with next who is in America, and his name is Jared Scourod, and he is a pediatrician and functional nutritionist in the US, and he goes one step further. He does all the genetic testing, and then the blood test and the GI test and everything. So it goes one step further. He can tell you what genes have been switched on, what they've kind of, if they were born with certain genes or if certain genes have been switched on over time. And some things can be reversed. So it's, you know, I think in America your health insurance covers it, but it doesn't cover it in the UK. So that's something that we'll have to explore a bit further. But yeah, I'm really excited to pursue that, because we don't have like the genetic / nutrition stuff over here. It's not a thing.
It's
So
exciting. It's
yeah.
exciting. I mean, it took me a long time, but I really like believe in all this stuff. And I don't
Mm.
know why my vision was so narrow. But I'm just loving it. And I don't know anything. This show is it's a passion project for me. There's no funding or anything like that. And
Mm.
so I'm probably supposed to say that we don't diagnose, or there's no medical advice or anything here,
Yeah.
because we're not there. We're not qualified for that.
Yeah.
But the
I'm
one
just
thing I
saying
can,
what's worked for my son. Like, that's all I can say.
yes,
What's been good for him.
which
That's
is the
it.
most important to us anyway, because the one thing I can say is that every parent that has pursued a better nutrition
Mm.
intake for their child believes it has positive effects
Mm.
on their child. No, it doesn't like remove
Yeah.
necessarily, but they feel that there's positive growth. And so that's enough evidence for me. I mean, zero parents have said, "Oh, I tried this great nutrition program that was really healthy and it didn't do anything." I've never heard that.
Mm.
So,
It's certainly not going to harm your child. It's not going to
yeah.
harm them.
So I'm
Yeah.
excited. Maybe we'll meet virtually at that guy's office someday, whoever this
Yes.
Jared Star is or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, anyway, I really appreciate this conversation. I I feel like I know your son a little bit, because I know my son. I know how hard they work. They work so
Mm.
hard, and they don't get the credit for working hard. At least my son sometimes, because he's not interested in a lot of things. But he's like the hardest working guy in my family, and I got 5 kids, right?
Yeah.
He's the hardest working, but he doesn't look like it. So I'm
Yeah.
so proud of your son. I'm proud of my son, and I'm grateful for this conversation. Kind of before we finish, just to get a few more answers from you, we do like a little lightning round, 1 word to 1 sentence answer, if that's
Mm.
okay with you.
Yeah.
All right, and then we'll close with any thoughts you have, um, or just a smile and farewell for now. So here we go. Ready?
Yes.
Okay, what's the best advice you have received?
It's best to have something and not need it than need it and not have it, as in support.
I like it. Share a personal habit that contributes to your success.
Being grateful every day.
Love it. Do you have a top resource or recommendation to share with other parents?
There's a great podcast called by Darren O'Lean called Fatal Conveniences, and they discuss a lot about toxins and how to reduce toxins in your house and in your body.
Awesome. Thank you. What's the next thing on your list that you want to add for your individual well-being?
Or for my individual travel.
Nice.
Holidays.
I like it.
Yeah.
What's the one thing you think would improve your life if you did it or had it?
I don't know.
So, something that we talked about today, or just something on your heart, anything you want to share with the listeners of the show? Words of wisdom, food for thought, or encouragement?
I would just say to anyone that's really going through it at the moment that there is hope, that there is light at the end of the tunnel, and that, like, I used to look at parents who were further down the line than I was, and I'd think, how are they all right? Like, I feel like I'm dying inside. But if you work through it, and if you take your power back, and if you control what you can control in your life and add happiness to your life as much as you can, and just learn to enjoy your child again, and know that it's okay to enjoy your child and it's not all going to be sad and hard all the time, that you will feel a lot better and things will get easier.
I appreciate that. I got the chills twice and I got misty eyed twice. that makes this a good show. I appreciate the inspiration that you gave to me today, and I wish you the best. And I'd love
Thank
to
you so
connect
much.
down the road and hear how things are progressing for you and your family.
Thank you ever so much.
Okay.
Thanks.
Farewell for now.
Bye.
Bye.